With Chainsaw Man chapter 169, we pick up where the last one left off, and this chapter marks a bit of a shift for Denji's character because we're getting to see what happens when you push someone like Denji to their breaking point, and most importantly, we get the reveal that public safety, they haven't given up the pursuit of Denji and Mitaka at all, but instead, they've only further ramped things up. When Denji and company are about to walk into the sushi restaurant, they're greeted by this overly enthusiastic waiter, and they're placed right away at the sushi bar, which has dozens of platters to choose from. And as Denji is looking around, he's watching as a family, they're enjoying a nightly outing. He's watching as two people on a date, and he's watching as others are just enjoying sushi, and he has wide eyes at everything he's looking at. And in this one moment here, it just makes you take a moment back to sit back and appreciate how far Denji's come. Back when we first meet this guy, he's eating half-smoked cigarette butts of money, and the idea of a gourmet meal for him was eating a slice of bread. Maybe if he got some jam, then that was like Thanksgiving. We literally just learned a few chapters ago that he used to get so desperate to eat that he would sneak into gas stations to eat the toilet paper off of a roll because he didn't have any options. Even in part 1, we see this on display with Denji via his relationship with Makima. People, they tend to only focus on the gaslighting and the using of sex to get Denji to do everything that she wanted, but one thing that a lot of people overlook is that one of the first things we see her do is use food as a way to make Denji go out and kill the muscle devil, and we see Makima smiling as she's using the most basic of human needs in order to control him, because every human needs to eat. If he's willing to do something this drastic for just for the chance to eat, what else could she control him to do? So for a guy like Denji, even having been away from that life for as long as he has in universe, things like this, they still are a bit of a kick in the nuts to him to a degree, because trauma like that, it doesn't go away overnight. Not when it's been built up for several years, in Denji's case, most of his lifetime. But this isn't the only thing that Denji is focusing on right now. The other things he's grappling with, they run even deeper, and they showcase just how far from a normal life Denji truly was, and how he still is. He sees all these people, and they're eating together, and his first response when he digests this information is to ask himself, did all these people, did they just get a nut off because someone gave them a hand job too? And we see Denji once again equating sex and things of a sexual nature to his feelings and his emotions as he's processing everything. He's telling Pochita how much he didn't like what happened to him, but it's a loaded statement. He's also talking about everything that happened leading up to that very moment, from losing his dogs, his home, being dismembered, and the whole Mitaka situation, with Denji saying that when Mitaka gave him the hand job, which we as the audience really know it was Yoru, he said it didn't feel as good as when he would do it to himself, but says that it made his heart feel funny. And what we're seeing here are two things, really three things, play out all at once. The first is that Denji has been putting sex on a pedestal for so long now that he's finally experienced something sexual for the first time, something truly sexual that isn't a kiss. He's not properly processing it. In a way, it makes you think about the very real problems that we have in our own world, where we're told time and time again that there are studies that say the more porn that a man consumes, the more desensitized they get to it. Denji, as we've seen, he's only become more sex starved since the betrayal of Makima and the deaths of Aki and Power, because whenever you're having sex, or in his case, whenever he's having sex with his own hand, you get that dopamine hit when you get your nut off, and it takes away for Denji the pain that he's feeling. It is an overload. The second thing that we see is that Denji, while he does say that his heart felt nice in that moment, he's coming to the conclusion that the experience, it wasn't everything he thought it would be that he had built up in his head. Either Yoru just sucks when it comes to giving handjobs, or what we're seeing is that there's some small growth in Denji that goes back to what Makima told him when she had him in the office and she was seducing him, when he told her that your first matters, and she's playing up with the prospect of building a connection with Denji, biting his thumb, telling him to remember that sensation, and even being willing to be his first in a multitude of different ways, all while knowing that she was never going to give it up for Denji. For Denji, this came completely out of nowhere. There wasn't a genuine connection in this moment. While he and Mitaka have had a connection, the problem is that this was Yoru who was twisting his little Denji Jr., even if he didn't know it was her. In his heart, despite how good it felt, it wasn't the person that he was catching true feelings for. That connection was missing. The last thing that this shows us is that if Denji is saying that he prefers his own rough and callous hands to those those are the soft hands of a woman. Denji is out of his mind for saying that it feels better when he does it himself. What we see here is that Denji, he's not too sure if he should be happy or unhappy right now. And it's a moment of much needed reflection for his character. And as this is going on, we see Mitaka continuing to look over at Denji sideways. And what we're seeing here is the awkward feelings that Denji's feeling right now. Mitaka's feeling them too to a degree, but due to men and women being different, she's processing them in a different way. And that much should be obvious. When they were taking the train over to the sushi spot, she refused to even sit next to him, but the blush on her cheeks right now and the way she's looking over at Denji, watching him very closely, it shows she's still processing everything that happened between the two. And when she's asking to leave, I think it's less of there's no food for her to eat here and more so that she doesn't want to be around Denji right now while she's still trying to figure out everything that just happened. She just wants distance and she wants a chance to clear her head. And oblivious to all of this, in particular, oblivious to how Mitaka's feeling, is Fami, who's just eating like nothing else has happened. And what I want to bring your attention to for later on in this story arc is the fact that Fami is once again shown eating. When we saw Denji wake up in her apartment, sleeping on her bed, Fami was shown in the kitchen eating a huge heaping of food, and she's eating yet again so soon after she just ate. Fami, the famine devil, eating like she's preparing for the very thing that she's named after, a famine of sorts where resources are scarce. Just want to plant that in your head as we move closer to the eventual debut of the Death Devil, and most importantly, the public safety devil hunters who are lurking outside waiting to attack. We then get more connective tissue in the narrative to show us how alike Denji and Mitaka are by one of her classmates pointing out how she's acting completely normal despite having lost an arm, and it's a good observation. Most people wouldn't be taking that thing in stride, yet look how much she's gone through in her lifetime, from losing her parents to a devil, which she's not the only one that's been suffering that. That's pretty common in this era, but she's now sharing her body with Yoru, who flat out told her if Mitaka tries the wrong thing, Yoru won't hesitate to kill her, and now she's being hunted down by public safety. Losing an arm at this point, that's pretty much child's play. This leads to Barem making his return into the story, and when he sits down at the table talking about the laws of nature and how animals and devils act, Denji, he doesn't hesitate. He just breaks his chopsticks and he's preparing to shove them into the side of Barem's neck to kill him. What we're seeing here is that Barem has brought out another level of Denji. The way that he instantly flipped that switch to go for the kill here, and it's a sign of how much Denji's been pushed to the brink of despair. He's completely given into his most primal, animalistic emotion of anger and is preparing to kill Barem right after he made the points about animals and devil nature. Yet what we see here is the mention of Nayuta. It is strong enough to calm down Denji, and that's the beautiful thing about this situation. It is a contrast between light and darkness, between human and devil. This whole chapter is that contrast. Denji's capacity to love Nayuta and his ability to rein in his anger is what makes this whole situation work as well as it does. What makes this even more heartbreaking for Denji is that throughout the manga, we've seen him be aggressive and we've seen him fight and kill numerous devils, but when you really think about these moments, you think about him as Chainsaw Man. Not too often do you think of Denji as the human being killing people. He's just killing as a part of his job, and in most cases, he doesn't have a direct attachment to his enemy, and it's almost always in self-defense. However, here with Barem, where this differs from Aki, who he had to kill when Aki was a gun fiend, and even when he had to kill Makima, is that you could look at all those events and you could say all of that was self-defense. Here with Barem, it's just straight up beef. He saw him and he said it was on sight. Barem had a green light, and Barem knows as much, which is why he tells Denji, yo, sit your stupid ass down and I'll take you to Nayuta after we finish eating on one condition. He informs Denji that public safety, they have surrounded the building, so the moment they step outside, they're going to be forced to fight. And now suddenly Mitaka not being allowed to go outside, it is a blessing in disguise. But I want to circle back to Fami speaking with her mouth full earlier for a moment. So notice how we don't know what Fami said here. It's impossible to tell, but here's why. For a moment you should consider that Fami was telling Mitaka not to go outside. So in chapter 2 of the manga, Makima tells us she has a really good nose. She can smell the difference between a human and a devil, and even a devil hybrid. Fami is her sister, so by extension, the same thing should apply here to her. If Barem knows that public safety has surrounded the building, there's a strong chance that Fami knew that as well. We end off this chapter with Barem offering Denji food, basically saying get some protein in your body because we're going to need you at full strength if we're going to walk out of this situation alive, and if you want to see Nayuta again, then you better be ready to fight. This chapter, it was more than just a group sitting down for dinner at a sushi bar, and that's the knee-jerk reaction to say that. It was Fujimoto once again highlighting the complexities of humans and showing the various scenes, how we're not that all different from animals, and yet at the same time we're extremely different. And Fujimoto took this chapter to show the several layers to the surface of why that is, in order to give us that answer, from how Mitaka was shown to Denji with this anger, which is why Chainsaw Man is a series. It is just so damn good when you dig beneath the surface of the characters, like this Makima video essay on the left side of your screen, and over here on the right we have another anime explain video that you can click on as well.